I think. The seating of the chairs. Welcome to the board meeting of November 4th, 2021. And it's nice to see the room full. Always a pleasure. Maybe. Christie, if you would, call the roll, please.
Absolutely. Trustee Kemper.
Here.
Trustee Bancole. Here. Trustee Prigi.
Here.
Trustee Husani. Here. Trustee Gutierrez. Here. And Trustee Porter.
Here.
We are all here tonight.
Thank you. And please join me. Pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Nice to see you all, and we have a motion to accept the agenda.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any changes to the agenda? Hearing none. Christie, call the roll.
Trustee Bancole.
Yes.
Trustee Prigi.
Yes.
Trustee Husani.
Yes.
Trustee Gutierrez.
Yes.
Trustee Porter.
Yes.
And Trustee Kemper.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Very good. I have swearing in of police officers. It looks like we got a few. That's outstanding. Six.
Good evening, everyone, and a special welcome to the families and friends of our officers being sworn in tonight. It's my pleasure to be standing up here tonight to swear in 6 new police officers. This swearing in is a little bit unique in that usually we swear in our officers within weeks of being hired, either in the early stages of the academy or attending the academy. Due to the pandemic, we were unable to do that. So tonight, we would like to recognize those officers that we hired during the pandemic and did not properly welcome to the village. So, as I said, there's 6 of them tonight. We'll get started right away. If I could ask the mayor to read a short bio on each officer and then swear that officer in. We'll start with Officer Gabriel Duran.
Start it off.
Okay, Gabriel, would you join us? Nice to have you with us. Are we using the formal? We're doing. Been here a while, but we're going through the formality. Do you have any family you want to bring up with you? Very good. And my sister.
You can bring them
Yeah,
up.
they can all
Bring your
come.
whole family up.
They can, absolutely.
Bring them all up.
That's fine.
This is.
Why not?
Oh, I like your Navy hat. Are you all Navy?
No.
Well, I am.
Not that.
Veterans Day is
Welcome,
coming on
friends.
November 11th, and I'll be in at least 6 schools talking about veterans.
Right. Love it.
Gabriel Duran. This is a good.
This is my village, sir.
I don't have to worry about this officer. He's got family to keep him in order. All right, here we go. Gabriel joined the police department on March 9th, 2020. He attended the Suburban Law Enforcement Academy at the College of DuPage, where he graduated October 30th, 2020. Prior to joining the police department, Gabriel worked for the Cook County Sheriff's Office, Department of Corrections, where he worked for 1 year as a deputy sheriff in the county jail. Gabriel attended the College of DuPage prior to being hired by Hanover Park, where he is nearly complete with his associate degree and will continue to complete his bachelor's degree in criminal justice. Gabriel is bilingual in Spanish. He is joined tonight by his mother, Vanessa Lewis, and his sister, Heather Duran, as well as several other family members. Gabriel is currently assigned to night shift patrol. Happy to have you here. This is a beautiful thing. Okay. Who will hold that for you? There you go. This is a family event. I'm all glad you're here. We'll make sure we get a photo with everyone in there. Okay. Everybody knows the mayor, right?
Okay.
Please, raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Gabriel Duran,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
that I will faithfully discharge
that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the office of police officer
the duties of the office of police officer
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Welcome, welcome, Bill. Shake everybody's hand. Very good, very good. Good to hear. Very nice. Well, you're all set. You're like you're ready to go to work.
back to the children's bus.
People, get a photo? Sure. Okay, everybody come together. We're gonna cram in here for a photo.
Do you want the middle?
Move to the left so you can get.
Scooch to the, middle, so you can have Hanover Park.
Move to the left, to the left, to the left.
Gabriel, go right in the middle there. There you go.
Somebody's gotta get us all in.
Do we want to take these things down maybe?
I'll get on the end, make sure we all get.
Gotta have the mayor of the picture.
You can take the masks off if you want.
Oh, yeah, the mic. Good catch.
Very good, Gabriel. I'd like you to meet the board, and I understand the whole family looks up. Yeah.
There was a pause.
Cubs or Sox? Okay. Either keeper.
You pass.
Oh, they're all keepers, Rod.
Oh, man, I love this part of the job.
If I can now have Diego Diaz and his family come forward, please.
Diego. Is your family here?
Come on.
All right, bring them up. Nice to meet you. Diego joined the police department on March 16, 2020. He attended the Suburban Law Enforcement Academy at the College of DuPage, where he graduated October 30th, 2020. Another big family. Prior to joining the police department, Diego was a science teacher at St. Lawrence High School in Burbank, Illinois. And he was also a college professor teaching exercise science at St. Xavier University in Chicago. Diego attended Concordia University, Chicago in River Forest. So did I. Yeah, I got caught at Concordia. Yep, it happens. Diego has also started working toward obtaining his doctoral degree in exercise science. Diego is bilingual in Spanish. Diego joined tonight by his parents, Aurelio, Maria Diaz, his girlfriend, Karina Munoz. Karina, you got to keep her here. Right? Yeah, you got to keep her. And several other family members. Diego is currently assigned to the night shift patrol. Nice to have you. Hold the Bible. Raise your right hand. Okay. I state your name.
I, Diego Diaz,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the office of police officer, the duties of the office of police officer,
duties of the office of police officer
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
You've never been so tough in your duties, son. Come here, everybody.
Should I do it? No, I won't do it.
practice session.
This is turning into a comedy show. No blood, we're good. Let's come together for a photo.
No, no, no.
Here we go. Very good. Thank you. Nice to meet you. Okay. You gotta go say hi to the boys. Here comes the tough question. Comes your socks.
Yeah. Better be from Burbank.
Could I please have Louis Rivas and his family come forward?
Welcome aboard.
Louis.
Always glad to have a South.
Is it Luis? Luis Rivas. Rivas. The mayor's got to go to school. Luis joined the police department on March 16, 2020. He attended the Suburban Law Enforcement Academy at the College of DuPage, where he graduated October 30th, 2020. Luis previously worked as an associate at Home Depot for 3 years. Luis attended Western Illinois University, where he studied criminal justice, received his bachelor's degree in 2019. Luis is bilingual in Spanish. Luis is joined by his parents this evening, Luis and Elsa Rivas, his brother Randy Rivas, and his friend Justin Bell. Luis is currently assigned to the night shift patrol. Everybody's night shift. We're keeping them undercover here. I, is that your name?
I, Luis Rivas,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of police officer
the duties of a police officer
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. Very good. Let's have a photo of the family. Okay. You gotta move the microphone again. Very good. Very good. Luis, you got to meet the board, but you got tough questions there. Cubs or Sox?
Socks.
They hurt.
If I could please have Bhavik Patel and his family come forward.
Welcome aboard. Nice to see you. Got the family here. How nice. Bhavik Patel joined the police department on July 20th, 2020. Bhavik came to us from Oakton Community College, where he was a campus police officer since 2014. During this time with Oakton Community College, Bhavik served as a certified range instructor and taser instructor. I know why you hired him. Okay, Chief. Bavik turned Oakland Community College, graduate with associate degree in criminal justice. Bavik is bilingual and speaks fluent Gujarati and Hindi. Bavik is joined tonight by his wife, Bhumika Patel, and other family members. Bavik is currently assigned to the day shift patrol. Day shift, you're a keeper. Okay, that's all good. We want to hide you. Congratulations. Raise your right hand. I state your name. You solemnly swear. That I will support the Constitution of the United States. And the Constitution of the State of Illinois. And I will faithfully discharge. The duties of the office of police officer. To the best of my ability. Welcome aboard. Thank you very much.
Cricket. You gotta talk about cricket.
All right, here we go. Very good. Congratulations. Welcome aboard. Welcome aboard. I don't know if I should ask you Cubs or Sox, or is it soccer or what's that other game?
India or Pakistan, that's what it is.
Yes?
Cricket.
You're a cricket guy. Okay, you're a cricket guy. All right, thank you.
Moving on. I'll ask him that question, Mayor.
Oh, okay.
If I could please have
Quite a celebration for those of you. And you can tell by my demeanor that I'm very encouraging for our police officers. They mean a lot to us.
What do
This
these
board
people in order
supports
to
our
happy
police
Diwali
department
and getting
well.
excited?
We've reduced crime in this town.
Glad to see you guys.
Recognize you for stuff. So I want to thank you all coming to support our new officers that we've hired over the COVID period, but now we're giving them proper swearing in. And thank you, Chief, for allowing me to do that.
certainly, thank you.
Zachary Jamison Jones. And family. Welcome aboard. Thank you very much. Zachary joined the police department on October 5th, 2020. And prior to joining Hanover Park, Zachary worked as a police officer for the Department of Veteran Affairs at Hines Hospital, as well as Moberly, Missouri. Zachary worked at each agency for 3 years. Zachary attended Columbia College of Missouri, where he obtained his bachelor's degree in criminal justice in 2019. From 2009 to 2012, Zachary served in the United States Army as a paratrooper, for which he is honorably discharged. Zachary is currently assigned to the night shift. I always love it when we get a veteran on board. Thank you. Welcome aboard. Oh, sorry. Okay, Chief, you got the duty. Raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Zachary Jamison Jones,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge
I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the office of police officer
the duties of the office of police officer
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my abilities.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I support him. Welcome. Welcome.
Timothy Krebit. Nice you brought your family with you. Timothy joined the police department on December 30th, 2020. Timothy came to us from the Chicago Police Department, where he served as a police officer since November 2017. During his time with Chicago, Timothy served in roles as patrol and TAC officer. Prior to working with the Chicago Police Department, Timothy attended Harper College and was an intern with the Hanover Park Police Department in 2013. Timothy is joined tonight by his parents, James and Terry Krebit, his girlfriend, Natalia, and other family and friends. He is currently assigned to the night shift. Nice, nice. Nice to have you aboard. So I'm a Harvard guy too. Distinguished alumni Harvard. That means, you know, the burden to go with that, right? And thank you for your service. All right. Oh, I like this. We got two for, okay, nice. Raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Timothy Krebit,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
that I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the office of police officer
the duties of the office of police officer
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Welcome aboard. Thank you.
What's the significance of the balloons? Yeah. Okay, good. We like that. Okay. I think you should get in there for the picture.
You got a faulty badge. Can you believe that?
Put it in your pocket.
This is the one where all the
Run out of badges. Just hold it up. There you go. That's all.
Yeah, I think, I think the balloons and the partner need to come for at least one.
Yeah, they want that,
You
yeah.
got him in the picture, right?
So it's all a joke. My old partner from the city.
All right. Did you get us on that?
I hate you. I think we're good, right, Tim?
I know, right?
What's wrong? Congratulations, officer. Congratulations.
He said Cubs
Mayor,
What did he say?
board. He said he's for the Cubs.
Mayor, you didn't ask a question.
We'll take it.
Well, we had one guy claim the Fifth Defense Amendment.
Amendment.
Right? He didn't claim either way.
Can I get everybody who got sworn in to please come up just for one more quick photo?
All our new officers.
Mayor, do you want to move the mic? They do.
You'll be fine. They won't. Don't let Mayor sit back down. I do. I really do today. I would like to know why the flags are back. It's been my question for life.
Well, a couple more.
Thank you all very much.
Did you ever, wait,
So sometimes they're turned around though, right?
somebody needs to check.
Yeah, right?
They're wrong.
All but one. All but one. Well, it's all or night shift at some point.
Thank you, Mayor.
Are you gonna go down there for this? I'm sorry.
Who's it? coming down
Small
to?
Business Saturday. I don't think anybody is, but do you, or do you read?
I'll read.
Okay, that's the next thing. Dr. Zitz, my friend. I'm gonna take this one back.
Oh,
So I
okay.
can scan it.
Oh, okay.
What would I do without it?
Hi, guys, thank you.
Pick up the phone and call you? I don't know. I thought you help everybody right now. I'm like, you know what? It's gonna be too much work.
Yeah, that was the funnest swearing ceremony I think we've ever had.
It was a fun one.
Yes.
Good hires, chief.
Very, very lively, fun crowd.
Right.
Mayor, I think that was the liveliest swearing in that we've ever had, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah, that was pretty fun.
it is.
We're all on the night shift and partying.
Half of them already met. Prior to
I-
tonight.
I remember we had one young man come, and he must have had 40 people in his direct family when they all came up. He made 2 weeks of the school. He couldn't take the school. But he had a rather supportive family. Okay. Very good. Thank you all for enduring my fun. Whereas, so I have a proclamation tonight. Whereas the Village of Hanover Park recognizes that small businesses form the backbone of our local economy by creating local jobs, supporting community events, sport teams, and charities to strengthen our neighborhoods. And whereas Small Business Saturday is a day dedicated to supporting small businesses, and people across the nation are encouraged to support small local businesses on the busiest shopping weekend of the year. And whereas first ever Small Business Saturday took place in 2010 and is celebrated each year in the U.S. on the Saturday after Thanksgiving, marking the unofficial start of the holiday shopping season. Whereas since 2012, every state in the union has championed Small Business Saturday, including the Village of Hanover Park's Economic Development Committee and the Village's Department of Community and Economic Development. And whereas 99.7% of all U.S. businesses are small businesses, and consumers have reportedly spent nearly $140 billion across all 11 Small Business Saturdays combined. And whereas during these economically challenging times, small businesses need our support more than ever, and the Village of Hanover Park supports local businesses as a critical component of restoring and rebuilding a healthy economy. Therefore, I, Rodney Craig, President of the Village of Hanover Park, do hereby proclaim November 27th as Small Business Saturday in the Village of Hanover Park and urge Hanover Park residents to think big and shop small. Support our small businesses by shopping and dining local on the Saturday after Thanksgiving as a holiday tradition throughout the year, dated this 4th date of November 2021. Wasn't too sure who to present this to, but I'm going to take it under my authority to present this to Lisa Gutierrez, who's been working very diligently with our small businesses. So Lisa, thank you for all you do. And that's a well done, and to that department who've been working with Lisa and our businesses very nicely. We've come a long way. Okay, That was the proclamation. Town hall session. Anyone sign in for town hall?
No, sir.
We have no one for town hall. Village president's report. I've been busier than ever, and I'm really working diligently on veterans awareness, recognition, and the VFW Post 5151 found a home in Hanover Park. They haven't signed the lease yet in Greenbrook Center. But they've, sustainability is very hard and a tough time for VFWs across the nation and not only our own. But they've managed to cut their costs in half and have found a spot in Hanover Park, which is pleasing to me but reflects nicely on the village as a whole. I'm also very pleased that recently the POC had their grand opening. Many of you came. The interest in bringing that center to Hanover Park is unbelievable. When I first went to the POC in Palatine in October 31st of 1990, no, 2019, I'll get that right. I saw the exceptional work. I saw all the 501c3s like Wings and others that were there supporting the community and the needs, especially with refugees and those that are not special needs but have, just need a boost. They need a shoulder to lean on to become successful in our communities. Hanover Park has had that need for a long time, and so I want to show appreciation for that and mention that. I loved it when I went to meet Polly Davenport, president of AMITA, and I got halfway through my convincing comments, and I had to call Lisa on the phone and say, "Can you bail me out of this one?" And Lisa and Polly connected nicely, and the next thing I know, we've got space, and that's what you really need, and the cost is almost zero as far as I know, but there's some startup things that they need, so we're going to help with that. So I'm pleased the board is supporting that, and the turnout was beautiful. And that overshadows just about anything else I would have to talk about that I'm busy with, mostly transportation and Metro. So trying to stay out of the Metro newspaper. Not always succeeding, but that's okay. And during the veto session, the bill was passed for the push tax. Certainly, we ended up in a leadership role with that. Many communities followed our lead. And that's nice recognition for Hanover Park. And I got many phone calls, not only from legislators, but from others who said, we understand this. Municipalities need to do everything they can to keep their property taxes low. We're like competing with the private side and the wealth side. So, but we will prevail and move on, and I'll be my normal busybody self with our legislators. So, with that, I will move. Where the heck am I? To approve by omnibus vote items on the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
I would like to pull off an item,
Okay.
785.
785 coming off. In the future, if we could do that when we do our acceptance of the agenda, that would be good. 785, but we can always catch up here. 785. Anyone else? Very good.
Yeah, beginning first.
Madam Clerk, call the roll.
So, just to clarify, the past few meetings, when we remove something, it's usually after you speak. So, do we want to move to removing it before you speak?
Yeah, to be clear, and I apologize if we haven't been, acceptance of the agenda, we should define at that point in time, okay?
Okay.
And, if we fall off the rail, it's our meeting, it's, I'm not an ogre about this.
I thought I needed to wait for you to speak, and then, that's what I thought.
No, that's okay, that's okay.
I think that the acceptance of the agenda is basically accepting all the items on the agenda. removing something from the consent agenda, I think can be done later. And I think if you read the consent agenda omnibus vote language in the agenda, it sort of indicates that.
Okay. Thank you.
Have a traditional rules.
Anyway, we're good.
Trustee Brigi?
Yes.
Trustee Husani?
Yes.
Trustee Gutierrez?
Yes.
Trustee Porter?
Yes.
Trustee Kemper?
Yes.
Trustee Bancole? Yes. Motion carried.
Thank you. 785, move to approve a resolution estimating the special service area tax levies for 2021 in compliance with the special service area taxation law. Further, move to publish in the Daily Herald on or before November 11th, 2021, a notice of the public hearing, which public hearing for the Special Service Area 5 tax levy shall be held on December 2nd, 2021, during the regular village board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion?
Yes. So just to clarify, this is the special service area where they previously asked for a 92% tax levy, right? Okay, and so we have brought it down to 48.38%. Okay, and then do we know, and forgive me if this is off, I think we calculated that the additional cost that would be incurred for each resident was in like the 300 range per person?
Can I just remind everyone to talk in the mics?
Sorry.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That report, hold on. Yeah, based on the new calculation, the increase will be $130 for each residence. That's equivalent to 45% increase compared to the 2020 levy
Per year?
per year. So again, this is only for the special service area. We're not talking about the other taxing bodies. So this is just an increase from the SSA number 5.
Okay.
So they're projecting, right now, they're on the 2020, their tax rate is 0.8813. So based on the calculation that I have, it's gonna go to 1.2823%, which is an equivalent of $130 increase compared to the 2021.
Per person? Okay.
So Rami, at 1.7%, what would that generate based on last year's assessed valuation?
Based on last year's, and I also added a 2% increase on their EAB, that will equivalent to $357,000.
Thank you.
Very good.
And that's all I had.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Hearing none. Christie, call the roll.
Absolutely. Trustee Husani?
Yes.
Trustee Gutierrez?
Yes.
Trustee Porter?
Yes.
Trustee Kemper?
Yes.
Trustee Bancole?
Yes.
And Trustee Brigi?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. 7810, move to approve warrant 10/4/2021 in the amount of $2,576,839.94.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Christie, call the roll.
Trustee Brigi?
Yes.
Trustee Husani?
Yes.
Trustee Gutierrez?
Yes.
Trustee Porter?
Yes.
Trustee Kemper?
Yes.
And Trustee Bancole?
Yes.
Thank you. 7011, move to approve warrant paid in advance 10/15/2021 through 10/29/2021 in the amount of $1,090,726.29.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion, hearing none.
Sorry, I
Oh,
had
okay.
one question. It's on page, oh, you know what, that might have been 710. You know what, no, never mind. Sorry, disregard that.
Okay. Happy to do that. Christie, call the roll.
Trustee Husani?
Yes.
Trustee Gutierrez?
Yes.
Trustee Porter?
Yes.
Trustee Kemper?
Yes.
Trustee Bancole?
Yes.
And Trustee Brigi?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Village Manager's Report. Continuation of FY22 budget discussion if needed.
Did we vote on 7A11? Did we vote on 7A11?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
So,
Little City Foundation. I just have a quick question on the, they requested 10,000, so we are approving 3,000 amount. So what goes into play approving a lower amount? Just curious to find that out.
So first of all, we start with the pool of funding, which was the amount that we had last year, so that's what we worked with.
Okay.
And then divided that amount, that pool of money amongst the organizations. The Little Cities has several homes
Yes.
in the community, and so this was added, let's see, what year was that added? So they started receiving funding in
Last year.
2020 at 2,500. 3,000 is consistent with what the board had given them last year as well. And they do have several other funding sources.
Yes. It's just a very important work that they do with foster families, this and everything else, so I really respect that. I know they have 40 million revenue right now and stuff like that, so they really do good.
And then the key was that, I believe in 2020, the specific of the request of the board was that contribution that was provided by the village go into funding those homes that are in our community.
That's right. That's what I was trying to get to as to how many homes are how much? 5 homes.
Didn't they add one this year?
I think we're at 5.
You're at 5?
So that's how we kind of determine what amount we're going to.
Yeah, we want to demonstrate support and then reinvestment in the homes.
Yes.
You know, I mean, I think we're a community that has welcomed these homes and this work. Communities around us have not. And I get offended with that. So
It's a great work.
it demonstrates that we are a caring community, a board that likes to, you know, we're not going to give them $40 million, but we can give them something that can go back to the homes. And, you know, they can invest in that. in
No,
that
my
work.
question was, they're requesting 10,000, not 40 million?
Well, yeah,
10,000 they
you're right.
requested, and then we're paying 3,000, so what's the difference? But I think I got the answers. Thank you.
Okay, good. Anyone else?
I'd like to know if staff, if we decide to go in a different direction with the HPCRC and the $1,500 that was allocated for that organization, could it be redistributed to other organizations on this list? And could staff then, if we're not needing to approve that tonight, could staff then come back with recommendations? Or would you like the board to give you direction on where that money should be redirected or reallocated?
I would really like to wrap this up this evening
Okay.
so that we can finalize that.
So, it's a great thought, Herb, and I have to speak up because Wings is a powerful organization, and we've cut them back. And although they only show that we serve 4 or 6 or something like that, that's a low number typically. And when Wings takes a family under control, it's really a heartfelt thing, and they end up taking not only the mother and the children that come with her. So when you say how many families they're helping, it doesn't, you know, pan out. And even if we had the $1,500, it's not going to cover that. But if we had to reallocate it, I would make a suggestion that the board consider Wings, that we put that toward Wings. We used to give them 5,000. We're down to, I don't know what, 3.
Yeah, I would like to say that if it's $1,500, and I agree with the value of Wings, if we could maybe split that and give, you know, another $500 to Wings. I also think very highly, and I'm just going to throw this one out there. The Hanover Township does yeoman's work here in the village, and I think that $500 is going to increase our contract, because we only give $1,000 to the township. And I know they get a lot of funding from other sources, but I think to show our.
So they did not, even though Sue tried very hard, they did not submit an application.
Okay.
The reason we selected $1,000 from the recommendation was that we every year
Fundraising.
Okay, all right.
So that's how we came up with the $1,000, just so you know.
Okay, point well taken.
Because you won't have a packet in your,
Yeah.
and we were unable.
I would still say that we give them that. I work with them very closely. I can't tell you how many people they literally rescued during the COVID crisis that live in Hanover Park.
And is that the foundation?
The foundation. Yeah, the Hanover
Hanover
Township Foundation, right? Because they have those funds that they can play with a little bit more. And so I was thinking about them as well as Wings. And I have to say that you look at 6 village residents, it is a whole family. We're talking about relocating, hospitalizations, intensive therapy, court costs. It's 6, but it's so much more. On top of that, we're not counting the numbers for folks that they are seeing at the internship level that don't go through all the process. So I think this number's a little bit bigger, and I was talking to them today too. So I like the idea of splitting it, and because Hanover Township is also very close to my heart, the foundation could put that money right back into Hanover Park. They really
Absolutely.
will. They will.
We know what Hanover Township does, and I think, you know, the fact they didn't send us in something, you know, I would dismiss that in a minute for them, because they are over the top on
So far I've heard, subtract 1,500 from HPCRC, add 500 to Hanover Township, add $500 to Wings, so that, just so you know, there is an additional $250 remaining in that line item that could be allocated that have not been allocated yet as well.
Just allocate it to Wings.
So I would like to interject before we just get into the nitty-gritty. Before we were talking about ARA, I would like to include ARA in one of the organizations that receives community contributions. So I don't know how that's going to kind of change your math there, but I believe that they serve, well, first of all, Hanover Park has a very large South Asian community. They serve that community. They provide language services. I understand that the DuPage Senior Citizens Council and the township provide senior services, but they do not provide these services to those in the South Asian community speaking Hindi, speaking Gujarati, speaking all of the languages that they listed in their application. Mayor, you also stated that you know, it's kind of personal for you. You know, you have a well-documented relationship with the South Asian community, and that they've never asked for money. And this is the one time that they are asking for money. So because we have such a large South Asian community within our village, because they provide this niche, and because they have never asked for any community contributions, I believe that they should be added to this list. And that's why I interjected, because I believe that it's going to kind of change the numbers and how you're doling out the money right now. And I welcome the thoughts of my fellow board
So
members.
I took it as, Juliana, you were taking the money from other funds for ARA, but still it was on the map, no? Oh,
No, there is
okay, I
no
misunderstood.
allocation to that organization right now. There is additional $250 in the budget in that line item that's not allocated yet, so that is available. And then in the past, the board has maybe taken funding from another line here and allocated it to
So-
different. So you could, you feel free to shift
Yeah,
these
Trustee Porter-
recommendations.
So Trustee Porter recommended one of the organizations that we want to stop and distribute that money to somewhere else. We were just having that conversation
Right.
right now. And they're asking for $1,500, I believe. So it's just the right time to get them on board with that $1,500 instead of reallocating that to Wings and everything else. My thought on that is that.
I like that idea. It would just be clean.
Yeah, it will be just clean. We're just switching organization name, that's it.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that organization. I am familiar with the MAFS, and I know they cover all Asians, so I don't know if this one is more focused on one component than another. I just don't know. So
Right.
the MAFS just didn't ask, because they have a rich source of funding from other places.
I would have to agree with trustee Bancole.
What's the will of the board?
Did somebody make an informal
They,
motion?
they're asking for 5,000,
They just put in 5,000.
which would put
Right,
them
what
at
would I
14.
do? 5.
And they want to serve 300.
So their number
50.
allocation is that they said that they have 350 they serve, that 70% of their service area covers Hanover Park. They requested $5,000. That comes to, they did have the full 350, it would come to a ratio of $14.29 per resident.
And I should also add that they are bringing a center to Hanover Park. They are in the works of bringing that to Hanover Park.
You're talking about MAFS.
No, I'm talking
ARA.
about ARA. And again, MAPS is a great organization, but again, the distinction is Asian and then South Asian specifically, and we have a large South Asian community within our village.
So is this,
And that's who they serve.
okay, let me see if I understand, because I get these names confused. Is this, when you said coming to Hanover Park, is this the organization, the senior organization that used to have lunch over on Irving and in that restaurant? Is this that organization?
In it was called Tasty or something?
Pardon me? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right? Yes,
Oh, okay. So I know they're trying to reestablish themselves here.
right.
Yes.
So now I know what organization you're calling about, but they have merit.
So they're
Yeah, they've
working
already
with,
been working in the village.
they're working with Hanover Township.
So
to-
they tried to work with Hanover
It
Township.
says that in collaboration with Hanover Township, they want to bring a social support group where the mission of women's empowerment is to educate and empower women who are experiencing homelessness with the skills and confidence necessary to get a job, et cetera. And they also have, they want to start a mental health and stress busting program for South Asian communities, the Memory Cafe, which is what they've been strong in, and stress management.
Oh, thanks for catching that.
Yeah, so I think this is a great opportunity for us to see what they do. I don't mind supporting them. What I would like to see next time is more of their partnerships. Like, where's their income coming from? It doesn't say, but it says that they've been around since 2015.
It says that they receive from Age Options $98,595, Age Guide $35,000, Hanover Township Mental Health $40,000.
They get $40,000 from the mental health board?
Yes.
Wow. Oh, there it is. 98,000 from Age Options, okay. And this is for 65 and over specifically, right?
I don't know. I
Yeah,
do know
think
that.
it is.
The lunches at Tasty were 65 and older, and they had some great lunches. I used to go to those. So they were really good.
Recall.
Are you familiar then with this organization?
Yes, I've
Just started.
attended, I've only attended the lunches, the senior get-togethers that they would do, and for $5 if you were a senior. Like I said, it was, if you love Indian food, this was great stuff, so.
So they don't card there?
Yeah, they do card you, yeah.
Well, they used to make me a burger.
All right, well.
So I've heard two options. I've heard take the $1,500 from HPCRC and apply it to Wings in Hanover Township, and I've also heard take it and instead apply it to this new organization. That's what I've heard so far.
Well, could we start off with dividing it amongst the three organizations? Give us a chance to monitor, you know, what their involvement is, and then reassess it in next year's budget, because maybe we expand our overall contributions, and if, you know, to meet whatever the
So
perceived.
$500 to each.
Yeah.
And would you like
What are
to
the
allocate the $250 that's unallocated at this time to an organization?
sorry, before we get there, what are the three that we're splitting it to?
So far, I've heard 500 to Wings, 500 to Hanover Township, 500 to ARA.
And since ARA is new, I wouldn't have any problem with giving that extra 250 to ARA. So it would be 500, 500, and then 750.
I like that.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah, I like that too.
I also want to say that, I mean, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but if we do our car show again, I'd like for us to open it up so that other nonprofits that we're passionate about or that we think could use, like Little City, I don't mind fundraising for those guys any day, or Northwest Suburban Recreation Association. So more of those folks that are active in our community can do that. So we can change it so that ARA can be one of those.
Yeah,
Or
I did,
whoever.
I think we spoke during the clerk's budget section about
That's
maybe
awesome.
rotating
Yes.
the.
They can
the-
apply for it and see.
Absolutely. It'll be like
However, you select,
So it's not the
the
same
partner,
one.
but have every year, the suggestion's been made that the
Yes.
partner in the car show be a new organization.
Yep, and they'd be able to promote their organization and
Help.
make community awareness as well, plus
That's
raise
awesome.
money.
And we have to talk about expectations of that organization to assist us with that.
Of course.
Okay?
We'll work on that.
So I'd be happy to pitch in with that expectation thing.
So are we all in agreement on this allocation?
Yes.
Somebody make a
Okay.
motion to say we're all in
So-
agreement.
So earlier in the board meeting, you voted in line with our schedule to post the budget on the 11th of November. So are there any other changes to the budget documents and everything that we've presented so that we can have a budget to post next week?
Sorry, Juliana, are we done talking about the community contributions?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, I had several questions.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay, we're not done.
Yeah, sorry. So, thank you. So we received, I think, roughly 15 applications. I think that was maybe the amount, 13, less than 15. And forgive me if others already know this process, but how do we notify organizations or the community that we are, at this time, accepting applications for the community contributions?
We don't.
Now-
We do not go out to the community and say, we have funding that we are making available. We select organizations that work with the village to help support the needs of the residents in conjunction with our core services as well. Those suggestions over the years have come from the elected officials, from staff, and so usually the past practice has been that if you're on the list and you received funding last year, Sue will send you a new application. Then there's also elected officials there might be a new, so for example, there's the POC is on here. This year, it's a new organization in the community. They have identified services that they're going to provide, and we work to bring that to our community, and so that is on the list. I believe one of you had a conversation with them and encouraged them to submit an application. We do not, I mean, if we went out to the entire
So
community.
can I just say, I'll just say something. So normally, nonprofits, what we do is, we look, so our grant writers and funding and our boards look at where we're active, and then those boards are created to advocate for that nonprofit. And so they go out to the government sector and the private sector to seek funding. So when I used to do this, I would be on all the web pages and all the phone calls to all the local government agencies. So it's sort of called phishing, and so that's how we do it. But normally, government agencies don't put out that, grants are open now, et cetera. So usually your grant writers out there calling and requesting those. I've never had one where it says we're now accepting applications. I don't know why.
So if there was an organization that year after year served our community but had not established a relationship with any of the elected officials or any of village administration. From what I'm hearing, they essentially would not know about this opportunity, and therefore, they would not be able to apply for said community contributions. Is
Not
that-
necessarily.
Well,
No,
yes.
not necessarily, because we were going to apply years ago. So, and I wasn't even on the board, and I didn't know. So it is, the burden is put on that nonprofit to fundraise, right? So the burden is put on that nonprofit to become familiar with the sector they're serving and what funds are available for them. And so it would be on their board to go out and seek those funds. So it's not necessarily, like, I don't know who has a relationship with ARA. I believe they're
It came through a former trustee.
I don't know who submitted.
a former trustee.
Mhm.
It might be also that they know that this is something that we do. I mean, we would look at budgets, we would look at all of that. Because you
So-
have a finance and department on your board that does all that.
So last year, the board asked us to do an extensive study of of organizations that provided, I want to say, human resources to the community. The police department, and in conjunction with other staff, did the analysis with our social worker, and they evaluated all of them. She came and made a presentation to the board of all of those associations, but they also presented where they receive funding. And while they may be doing work and good work and be connected to our community, they're well-funded through other sources. So they don't need the village to provide them with funding because they're funded by either the county level or the state or federal funding. And so this list has been formed over the years of those organizations that maybe don't have access to those other funding, larger funding sources in some cases. And in some cases they do, and the board has felt like they have a real connection with our community and has decided to give them funding.
Okay, thank you for that additional information. Thank you.
Thank you.
Um,
Being patient to listen to all that.
So I guess, we look at these numbers, we look at these organizations, the good work that they've done. And I believe thank you for the charger, my computer died, so I can't see what the number is, but I believe their full requests for all the contributions was like in the 50s, in the mid-50s.
56,850.
56,000, right. And so and again, our budget hasn't been, thank you. Thank you. Again, we have not voted on our budget. We've already talked about tonight how we have allocated 99% of our ARP money towards our water meter project, which it's very important, and I understand the importance of it. I don't understand why we can't allocate the additional monies so that we can fully fund their requests. These are small requests, and I think that every nonprofit has gone above and beyond in this COVID era that we are living in. I would also like to add that I am uncomfortable with allocating 100% of our ARP money towards our water meter project and the remaining going into our water and sewer fund. So that's just my question. Why are we not allowed to allocate the remaining? Is it like a difference of 12,000, I think? $12,000 to fully fund their requests and explain to these organizations that we are able to fully fund your requests this year because of the influx of federal funds that we have received as a village. And this might not happen next year, and it probably won't. But these are small requests. These organizations truly, again, have gone above and beyond to serve some of the most fortunate in our area. And I would like to see us consider fully funding their requests and adding an additional, I think, I can't see the number, but $12,000 to this community contributions fund.
I am so used to looking at these numbers, I may be looking at it differently or the way it's usual for me, and I don't even question it because last 12 years I spent at Wintrust working on Community Reinvestment Act, CRA, and I always get requests to get a non-for-profit funded for a donation or sponsorship, and they can come up with whatever number they want. They get submitted, but we review it. The review goes into place. That's why I asked Juliana when $10,000 was submitted, why was $3,000 approved? The reasoning is this is how many residents that they help. So it has to make sense business-wise as well as to why are we reducing and giving. And if you look at the whole organization in a big picture, the organization does really well with funds that they receive. It's more than 40 million, that specific organization I'm talking about, Little City. So I think it makes sense overall if you look at each organization and the thought process that goes into play. So that's why it's a reduced amount, because we're kind of putting a logic behind it and spending time to understand the request and what we want to allocate to that funds. So
No,
anything.
And that makes sense.
Yeah,
No, I
it's just a
get
business
that.
decision. I guess.
I just saw this as we have this one-time money. They're asking for these requests. They can be one-time requests. I'm not saying we would do it every year. We don't have the funds to do it every year.
Right,
But-
the thing though is they're gonna request the same amount they're requesting this year, next year.
A
Right,
little bit
but
more.
we would have to make it clear.
A little bit more.
that we are
And the
able
thing
to
is
fully-
they always ask
Yeah.
for more, and they know that they're not gonna get what they're asking for.
Yeah.
And the difference is 22,000.
22,000, thank
22,
you.
not 12, yeah.
So are we able to explore adding a little bit more to the community contributions?
I guess I'm not comfortable with that. I think we're exploring it at this moment. And why I'm not I'm uncomfortable with it, we can't put enough money into the water fund. Our need for replacement, the community's at an age where our
we don't wanna be
water
in a
pipes
situation where we have-
breaking, collapsing. We're on the cusp of.
And then you have a lot of people that are gonna be in a pickle.
So when they get a break in the winter, they go out there and they put a replacement piece in, and then they take a band and they tighten it up. And what they're finding, because if they're out there on my block, I'm out there sticking my head in the hole. What they're finding is the pipe is breaking and collapsing. So we're on the cusp of some serious setbacks with our delivery of water. So I think we have to really focus on our enterprise fund and keep those dollars there, because I don't want to be a model community that can't deliver water.
Right.
And I agree with that, but and I don't mean to speak for Trustee Bancole, but I'm seeing what she's trying to say. Absent the ARP funding, we would still have the water main situation that we would have to budget for and fund and deal with, whether we got the federal money or not. So I guess what she's saying is that with this one-time money and how we've determined to allocate it, is there any provision where there's some other one-time opportunities that we could contribute to and fund in addition to what we've done with the water main?
Right, but
if I'm
No, that's correct.
right, but if we didn't have the ARP, we would probably have to end up raising our levy.
We would have to raise water rates.
Right. And
increase our service charge, and the board agreed to increase it by $6.25, effective 2022.
No, and I'm in agreement with what everyone has said. I understand the importance of this water meter project. That's why we have allocated 99% of our ARP money to this water meter project.
I understand. One of the things I want to note, and as I'm reading here, is I think it's very restrictive on what we can spend that funding for. So I don't believe it's
So,
you would have to spend it on something that would support the immediate economic stabilization of households and businesses.
yes. And so the first two pieces of legislation that were passed by Congress, the CARES Act and the continuing budget that was passed at the end of 2020, did have many restrictions on them. The last COVID relief bill that was passed through the Biden administration gave state and local governments a lot of flexibility as to what they could and could not do with these dollars.
I have it right
So in terms of it being, I'm not sure what sentence you just wrote, but these are grants to nonprofits, right? Community contributions, we're not asking for the money back, correct?
Correct.
These are grants to nonprofits, and grants to nonprofits or small businesses do qualify under eligible categories in this relief COVID bill.
So it says what can funds be spent on? The one that would fit closest to some of these would be support immediate economic stabilization for households and businesses.
So are you saying that you would like to revisit this COVID relief bill to see if we could allocate additional funds to the community contributions?
What I'm saying is, of the ARP money that we received, while we have made the recommendation in the budget to put it all to the water fund, you do have the ability to take some of that funding and allocate it to something in the general fund, which is where this is. And in conjunction with this section of the budget that we're discussing, you would have to be able to say that you were supporting immediate economic stabilization of households or businesses with that contribution.
And I think from the applications that we've received, in which these nonprofits go into grave detail about who they're serving, how they're serving them, how often they're serving them, I would argue that that has already been documented in the applications that they've provided us. I'm just asking for this to be considered. Again, I am very uncomfortable with 100% of the ARP money going to, and I understand the importance of water and running water. I get that. But when you look at what the ARP money was for, it was not 100% for capital projects. It's because we're in a pandemic. And I would ask that our board remember that.
I understand what you're saying very clearly. I have two concerns. And I think you've all heard about my trials and tribulations with the sewer system around my home. I'm afraid of that happening again. It was just unhealthy. The second thing is, if I were to spend any extra funding of any sort, it would be so that we don't have to raise our water rates. You want to talk about stabilizing a family financially. That would help if we don't raise those rates, if we don't tax, if we just try. I know at some point it's not healthy for us not to tax our community when our community is growing and has higher demands. I get that, but for right now, if we can, if I would allocate any funds, it would be to that, especially when we were talking about looking at our lower income families and how maybe they should be getting a break with the water.
I like that idea as well. I like that idea as well. But I'm just trying to say that we have allocated this large portion of money towards this project, and I think it's great, and it's needed, and the infrastructure was old, and it needed to happen. But with the remaining 200,000, and I still can't find this number, I've looked. With the remaining 200,000, there is much that we can do to stabilize communities.
So,
It could be with water. It could be with these organizations. We're talking about these organizations, and I'm just seeing, you know,
Okay, so,
the small amount that we're getting. So if I could just finish, if I could just finish. So, again, I would just like the board to just consider allocating, or just thinking about the allocation of those funds and how they can serve our community in a different way instead of staying in the water and sewer fund.
so
And that's all I have.
let me just say this. We've received half the amount this year. I think the time to really drill down on what you're suggesting is after we receive the second.
We have, it's allocated, it's coming in this next budget, and it's gonna be spent in this next budget.
Well, I've fallen asleep at the wheel waiting for money that's been promised to us, okay?
We received the first one, and I believe we will, on this one, receive the second one. But we have, if this budget is passed as recommended, it will be spent and allocated in the water fund. The only thing I would say is, the water fund is for our residents, the residents that live in this community, the businesses that are in the community. Some of these organizations that are listed.
They service multiple
community
communities.
contribution are for residents here, but also residents outside of the community. So,
And you've brought up a very good point. So maybe we should explore how the remaining ARP money can be used just specifically for our residents, for our small businesses, for anyone within the village, so that 100% of the ARP money is not going to the water project and water fund.
if we hadn't used that. I'm sorry, if we hadn't, it's cold in here again, so I'm just warming up my nose. If we hadn't used that ARP money for this water issue that we have, this water issue that's big, what would have happened? How would we get the funding? What was the plan?
if we didn't use it for the water meter project, we would have used it for, water main replacement. We would have, my recommendation would have continued to be to spend it on water.
But if we never got that sort of funding, this one time, if we never received this one-time funding, what would we have done?
We would have, it would have pushed water main replacement, further out into the future. So you saw that, John Stell, the village engineer, explained, and TJ explained that you're gonna need to spend $4-point-some million for the next 30 years. Now you're at 32 years, out. It's just such a magnitude of expense and need in that area. And I will say that most of my colleagues in other communities are spending their allocations on their water systems, just because water systems are so expensive. And there's, as was explained, there is not grant funding out there for water systems. You know, we can get grant funding for street repair and some of these other things, but there's very few grant opportunities in the area of water. Because it's an enterprise fund, and the expectation is you're gonna charge the users, for that, for the water piece.
I think the rest of the answer about where would you get the money, the rest of the answer is you'd have to go into debt perhaps to get the money. In
You'd
other
have to go
words,
into debt,
issue a
or
bond or.
you could do that,
Right.
but then the water fund's gonna pay that
Correct.
debt off over time as well.
Correct, but that is, I mean, the question was, what are the alternatives? And that would be one of the alternatives. I think the other thing too here, and so that everyone kind of knows what this process is, you did pass a motion earlier, and the motion was to make the tentative fiscal year 2022 budget available for public inspection and publish the public hearing notice. And the public hearing notice is attached. And the village manager has indicated to you, you know, that they need a tentative budget to publish. And that's kind of what she's trying to arrive at. If you look at the notice that's going in the newspaper for the budget, the last line says, all interested persons may appear and participate in said hearing. The tentative budget may be further revised and passed without any further notice or hearing. So, the whole purpose of having a public hearing is to have people from the community come, have an opportunity to look at the tentative budget that's being prepared, or has been prepared, and make comments to the board concerning it. The board, if they were to choose to do so, would be able, after that hearing, and maybe even after learning things that they're not even aware of, that the public might bring to them, they can revise the budget before it's actually finally passed by the village board. So I really think that one of the issues is trying to get this tentative budget in a document that can be put in the clerk's office so people can see it. And if people here have different ideas of what they want to do, there's still some opportunity to do that.
On December
But
11th.
I think that's true, but short of the board asking for additional information or some, you know, to have, us present you or find out or gather for you to help make you a decision, we need to make a decision, and it may not be a unanimous decision, but I think that this is the opportunity when you're all here to have that dialogue and talk about where the priorities are and what you'd like to see. And we have a strategic planning meeting next week. We have another board meeting the following, and according to this agenda, this calendar, this budget, final approval is on December 2nd. So we have a holiday in there, and that's why I guess I'm hoping that we can make this decision this evening as to where the funding is gonna go.
So, sorry, on December 2nd, we have another workshop?
No, on December 2nd, it's on for approval.
It's on for approval.
There's no changing it on December. It needs to be done prior to that.
And then the public comment session was
November 11th.
so it's in a week.
So the public hearing
Is next week.
Is
Is it
on-
the next meeting?
is
The
on-
18th.
Sorry.
Yeah,
on
is-
the 8th, sorry.
right.
I was a date off.
is on, right.
Right, the public
The public
hearing's on
hearing is
December.
going to be held on Thursday, December 2nd.
Right, so our practice is that we have this discussion, we come to a budget, we have the public hearing on the 2nd, and then you also approve the budget on December 2nd. If there's a change to the budget, you're making it on the floor that night. And Remy is recalculating the numbers, and you're making a motion to amend that evening.
But you'd rather not, you'd rather do it beforehand.
Pardon me?
You'd rather not do it right then and there.
Well, I'd like the best document that meets the needs of this board before that process, so I guess tonight
There
maybe
actually is a drop dead date for approving the budget. What's that drop dead date, Remy?
That's for the levy.
For the budget, for approving the budget, isn't there a drop dead date for that too?
Should be December 2nd.
That's your schedule.
I think it's the end of the year. It's like December 30th or
Right,
something like that.
right, right.
And do we have?
I mean, if it were true that you had to pass the budget on December 2nd, if it were true that you had to do that, then what would be the purpose of holding a public hearing?
Well, I understand. I'm just trying to speak logistically. Yes, legally, we can do that.
Right.
I'm
Well, I think
asking the
that's what the
board.
board
I
needs to know, what you can do.
No, I understand, but I need the board to give me feedback on what they would like to see in the budget. And
Right.
it may not be unanimous tonight, but if we could get some consensus or a majority vote or whatever, if maybe you can make some motions and we could decide where we're at.
Well, I appreciate knowing about the public hearing and maybe even making changes after that, because that's something I wasn't aware of. So thank you for that. And I understand the need to have to move forward and get things done. I get that. And so from what I'm hearing, you would like a little bit more direction as to any sort of other potential changes. And what I'm saying is that for the remaining ARP money, just going back to what I'm saying, for the remaining ARP money, I would like for us to look at other ways that we could allocate that money to help our residents. We've already ruled out that it's not gonna go to community contributions because, yes, they're helping our residents and they're helping other communities, but I would like to look at ways for it to specifically assist our residents. And I
keeping the
hope
water
that is
flowing.
the direction
Right.
that you.
I'm gonna tell you, the majority of the residents, they're gonna want the water to keep flowing over
And I
not
agree.
for profit.
I-
So
I
I think maybe
agree.
we, at this time, we should take a consensus of the board.
Mayor?
Sure.
Are you calling the question?
There is no
There's
question.
no
Yeah,
question,
there is no
there's
question,
no
'cause
vote.
What
We-
is,
we
what
just-
is,
He's just asking you to poll the board.
Oh, okay.
Poll them, ask them.
Yeah, just the
so
poll
what
of
is
the
the
board.
remaining amount after we fund the water main project and we do that from the ARP funds? What is,
There's 187,000 that's been allocated to the water main, replacement of the ARP money revenue.
187,000?
Correct, on top of the water meter project.
Okay, to the water main replacement project, okay.
I think we can, you know, the first question that was asked was, can we at least fund those that we're recommending at their request? Wasn't that what was stated?
Yes, but we.
But I think
But they've already
not
settled
doing
that, Mayor.
They already settled that?
Correct.
All right. So what were you asking for?
Didn't they? Didn't
Yes.
you all
Yes.
settle that?
What I've heard is trustee Bancoli's asking that some or all of that 187,000 be reallocated to something other than the water fund.
Yes.
So.
I don't
can we
have a
get
clue what that
consen-
would be.
Well, can we get a consensus of whether that's?
willingness to do
the
that?
willingness of the board.
Just for a question, is the 187,000 currently in the tentative budget allocated to the water fund?
Allocated, yes, to the
Okay.
water fund
Thank
and to the water main replacement.
And
project.
what would the impact of not allocating that $187,000 to the water fund? What is the impact that would have on the residents vis-à-vis their water bills or water
So-
fees or that type?
So this is a domino effect. So at the last meeting, the board said, you didn't want to do the full, you wanted to do half, so we moved 2 large projects forward into the future year. So I have no further capital projects that I can move forward into the future year. So then I have to cut back on a water main project. If I cut back on a water main project, either Northway or the other, what's the circle? I can't remember, whatever, one of the street projects will not get done because we won't be able to do the water main underneath.
Because of the 187,000. It is solely because of the 187,000.
It's because the revenue was cut at the last meeting to do the capital projects already. So you limited it down to still being able to do those 2 streets with the water main
Right,
under
so
them.
what this enables them to do is like on Northway and, is it Princeton Circle or something like that?
No, it's not
What?
Princeton.
But anyway, it's, when they go to redo the surfacing of the streets, they're gonna be able to pull the old water main out, put new water main in. Without this, they won't be able to do that.
And that's happening next fiscal year.
Right, we have 2 projects that we wanted to do previously. They're worse than maybe some of the ones we did this year, but we didn't do those streets. Northway and, TJ, can you find out what that other one, please, is because we were gonna have the money in the water fund to do the water main underneath the street. It's been,
Right, 'cause we
John
don't
has
replace
said,
the
if we
street
can't
and
do the
tear it
water
out.
main, we can't take
Can
up
I-
that street.
Can I ask for Syed's opinion on this? Because he's got this look at it from this financial point of view that I don't have, so I'd like to hear this.
No, I just want to address the whole issue here that we're talking. I completely agree with Yasmin Bancoli when she brings in the concern that this should be allocated to some non-for-profits as well because the money has been intended for that and it's a grant. But the only thing that we missed here is the bus already because we already voted, we allocated the money financially. it's a disaster. Now we go back and trying to fix. I completely agree with Juliana when she says that, well, it's going to have a ripple effect on things because we already made a decision. We gave her a blessing saying, you know what, move forward, Juliana. Now we say, no, we cannot because we thought about something else. Now she need to go back and revamp everything else. So it has a domino effect on everything else. So once we approve something, it's just going back and fixing is just not as easy. And we agreed at that point, so it's just going back, it doesn't look right as well. I think going forward, we need to be very careful with what we get and how we allocate it. And I'm glad we have your thought process and knowledge that you bring to the board, and every time you speak, I carefully listen to you because you bring that knowledge that I don't have. So I'm glad you're bringing that up, but it's a little too late. That's how I look at it, and that's what the whole board is trying to have that communication. Even the president and Juliana is saying, well, we already allocated it. It's just going back and it just gets messier. So let's not do that. But going forward, when we have a grant like that, we have to allocate it wisely. And that I'm really looking forward to serving with you and having that knowledge.
Thank
TJ,
you.
were you going to
Thank you for your kind words. I just want to respond to that quickly. And I get what you're saying. And I get that we gave our blessing to the water meter project. I don't believe we gave our blessing to 100% of this money going, with the remaining amount going into the water and sewer fund. That is still a recommendation. It's not something that we voted on. So I get what you're saying. And you know, I wouldn't say something like, oh, the water meter project, we've paid for 50% of it. We're not going to pay for the other 50%. No, right? Because I understand that can't be touched with.
Yeah.
But with this remaining amount, I am just I guess I'm just fighting for our residents.
Juliana,
I am fighting for
can I
our
ask you a
residents.
question?
Just, well, can we?
I think
can
it
we hear-
relates to this. The $12.50, is there any relationship between this $187,000 and the
Yes.
difference between the $6
Yes.
and 25 cents and the $12.50 rate increase?
Yeah.
What is that relationship?
The relationship is they're both revenues into the water fund that expenditures are charged against. So at the last meeting, when the board cut it in half, the revenue that was going to be generated by the increase of the service fee, you cut revenue out of the water fund, and thus we had to cut an equal amount of expenditures. What I guess I'm saying is there's no more, as you cut more revenue, the expenditures we cut are more painful, I guess, or more critical, or, I mean.
Was this $187,000 in the water fund part of the revenue that was needed in the water fund?
Yes.
In
And
order to
we're at a
avoid
we are
the
at a
additional-
deficit in the water fund. What's the deficit
So
currently?
that's why I'm asking, is there a relationship
Well,
between those?
what is the deficit in the water fund right now?
When we originally presented the budget with an increase of $12.50, our deficit on the fund balance of the water, on the deficit on the water fund is $878,000. But when the board says now we cannot give you that, we can only give you $6.25,
Right.
then the deficit went from $875 to $1.2 million deficit.
Okay, so
And if-
I feel like
in
this
that-
is.
And if you
and
took
so
the
if-
187 out,
It's already
It's
in
an
that.
additional, 1 point, that deficit keeps growing.
Okay, can I just say something, because I think we're all talking over each other. When we talk about what we're doing we are all doing it for our residents. So I hear that you know, we're fighting for our residents. I think we all are, it's just we're doing it in different ways. You're telling me that 187 is linked to the fact that we're able to now just charge $6.50 extra instead of the $12.50 extra, correct? For the water fee.
And do the projects that are
And
currently
plus,
left.
do the water, the sewer system. TJ, what would happen if we don't fix those streets, if we don't? I already know what happened because I experienced it, but we are fighting for our residents. It's just we're using it in a different way. We just really are using it in a different way. You're really fighting for the safety of my then 3-month-old. as we walked in sewage in my home because of this. And I don't want anybody to have to go through that. I really, really don't.
So, Northway is in bad shape. It needs completely to be, not just resurfaced, it needs to be completely redone. It only makes sense to do the water main with that because you're already tearing the street up. If we tear the street up and just do the street, how many water main breaks are we going to have over the winter?
We will
for the
not
following year.
recommend doing Northway without doing the water
Right.
main. We will
So-
not do that.
Right, so
street.
and Northway, I don't know whoever has not driven down Northway, but drive down Northway. It's bad.
You don't drive down Northway, you bump your way down Northway.
During the strategic planning, we had that survey from our residents, and the number one issue is streets.
Yeah.
And this is giving us 2 huge streets next year to be completely redone in a correct way.
So we are working for our residents.
We heard them.
So,
And keeping the water running is the biggest thing we need to
that's
do.
the basic need of life, right?
Next
So-
survey, we'll get hit on that if we don't do that.
So might I just suggest that, you know, it seems like we already have made some critical decisions about distribution of funds and projects. And for future reference, I would like to see this discussion for charitable contributions come up earlier in our budget discussion before some of these other critical decisions are made. So if we could have this discussion, you know, earlier in this process, I think then that would allow us more flexibility in determining the allocation of funds. I think putting it at the end when so much has already been determined and money's already been distributed just makes it really tough for us to,
Go
you
back
know,
and
to do that. And so that would just be my recommendation, moving forward, that we could just move this conversation up in the budget process
I'm
discussion.
fine with that.
I think,
And
I think I agree with that. And I certainly am empathy with Trustee Mancoli's comment about, I hate to see all the money just go into water. I think we pretty much are sensitive to the feedback we get from our residents. We got to put as much money as we can into replacing we can't replace the streets unless we get the water mains
they
done.
can.
It just goes hand in hand. So, with all due respect, I would ask that when we get a grant of similar nature in the future, that we look a little closer at how we do that distribution, and a portion could go to some other things. We didn't do that this year, but let's learn from that. And I'd ask that we move forward and get this budget completed and move forward with all due respect to all board members who kind of think like I do, right or wrong.
Yeah, no, and I just want to quickly say, I don't disagree with you. I agree with you. I agree with what Trustee Porter said, really with what everyone has said. And I thank all of my board members for their feedback, for listening to what I had to say. And thank you to the staff as well for just looking up those numbers and trying to see if this was something that was plausible. So I understand. This has been made very clear to me, and I guess I will recuse my suggestion before.
Just swallow hard and know that we're
No,
going to approach
But
it a little
trustee-
differently in the future.
bring it up.
Thank you.
May I ask, however, Trustee Bankole, never stop questioning
Yeah.
our budget.
Yeah.
Never.
Never,
So thank you for that. Yeah.
So every opinion is.
Where'd that come from?
We do.
Listen, I think you have your direction, Juliana. I think we've agreed to move on. And we've had some learnings for the future, and we'll take those close at heart. And Trustee Porter laid it out, but let's look at that a little earlier in the year, if we may. Thank
We
you.
can also have the conversation earlier in the process of whether how much that pool is that the board wants to allocate to the community groups.
Exactly.
I think you can always find community groups to give money to, but maybe with the growth of our community, that number needs to change.
Yeah, and the only thing is, if we match everybody's request every time, more people will be coming out and asking for money.
They'll keep wanting
That-
more.
That's what happened
Thank
with
you.
Wind Trust. I was working with $30,000 budget, but I was start working with $100,000 budget. And that went up in 2 years.
Very good.
So just so I understand, so we will be posting the budget as presented and revised through this process on the 11th. We will have a public hearing on December 2nd, and we will have the approval of the budget on December 2nd as well. The main one will be the decision that's made on the special service area number 5 after that public hearing and the board hears from those residents. Thanks, Joe.
Okay, without objection, we'll move on to licensing of gun ranges.
So this item was requested by trustee Porter to be placed for discussion. There had been some discussion about, or requests about changing the definition along with when we were doing the push tax. When we went back and looked at other communities, we found that no one is charging that tax and actually collecting it right now from the other communities. Some have language in their budgets that, or I mean, in their codes that allow for it. But when we looked at our code with the village attorney and I, it was determined that it would be better fit in the licensing section of our code versus the tax section, or the permit section of that code. And Bernie, you can walk through and explain why it needs to be in that other section instead of the one that was recommended at the last meeting.
As you see in the agenda packet, when we were discussing this, was it at the last regular meeting?
Yes.
October 21, was that the last regular meeting? That same day, the Supreme Court rendered this decision involving Cook County and a challenge to the Cook County taxes on the sale of guns and also the sale of ammunition. Our ordinance that we passed, that push tax ordinance, was purely a taxing ordinance. We have actually two different, well, we have a number of chapters in our municipal code. But among the chapters that we have one chapter which is called Businesses and Licensing, I believe, and we have another chapter which is called Taxation. The ordinance that was passed for that push tax was placed in the taxation chapter of the ordinance because it's purely a tax. So, and that section that was in that ordinance concerning what an amusement was had to do strictly with the tax. And that definition is also in the taxing chapter of the municipal code. So the Supreme Court, on that same day before our board meeting, sort of laid out the issues with Cook County, a home rule unit, and their tax on the sale of guns and the sale of bullets or ammunition for those guns. And they decided the case based on the uniformity clause of the Illinois Constitution. They relied on the Second Amendment to basically find that, you know, there was this more heightened review of what they were going to do on the tax, and they did not decide the case on the Second Amendment exclusively, which they were asked to do by the plaintiffs, because one of the principles in the law is that if you don't have to decide the case based on the federal constitution, you don't. Or if you don't have to decide the case based on the state constitution, you don't. And so that's what they did. The dissent, not the dissent, the concurring opinion sort of said to the court, you know, you're kind of leading these defendants, Cook County, down a path that doesn't have a good result. That was his opinion. And he said that because he believed, since the Second Amendment says that you have this right to bear arms, and whatever that right is that's defined in the Second Amendment, that right is only subject to the police power of the state. And the majority acknowledged that the police power is different than the taxing power, and the police power is really a power to regulate. And so it seemed that if you were going to do something concerning the gun range, it would be more in line with, do you need to regulate it? And part of regulation, if you need to regulate it, is the ability to license it. And that is what this is trying to say, that if you indeed, I don't think we really are recommending one way or the other, but if you indeed want to regulate the gun range, then you would need to develop what it is that you're going to regulate and perhaps license it and have them pay a fee for the licensing that is related to the cost of the regulation. Reasonably related to it. Doesn't mean it has to be exact. There's all kinds of cases concerning that. And so what I just tried to do is in one page, I think it was in just one page, right? Just demonstrate how it would be put into the municipal code, that it would in fact go into the business regulations, licensing permits, business regulations of the code. There's like six divisions that currently exist under amusements, the licensing of amusement, not the taxing necessarily, although there are some that are taxed in that chapter, but they're not constitutionally protected things. And the big issue would be, one, does the board want to regulate a gun range? And if so, to what extent? And if so, do you want to license them? And so I guess that's really kind of what we're saying here. And if the board were wanting to do that, then I believe that that likely could be done.
So, thanks for that explanation. Here are a couple of questions that I have on the issue. And my first question is, are a tax and a fee, are those used in the same manner, or is there a substantial difference in a tax and a fee?
So I would say to you that I'm not quite sure what a fee is, although I think of it more in terms of licensing fee. Okay. A tax, the old story about, a tax is like tribute. The government sets tax because they have the power to tax. The power to tax is the power to destroy. You've heard all those things. And so that's a tax.
So would we consider our water fee, our water service fee, a fee, or is that a tax?
It is not a tax. It is not a tax.
So there's a substantial
And
difference
it's not,
in a tax and fee.
and it's not a licensing fee, but it is a fee.
Right.
As you're describing it, because
It's paying them for
it's a
something.
payment for the delivery of a good. The good is the water. The water is a commodity. And so we have in the village ordinances concerning water. And the way the law looked at that over historical times was that when you have an ordinance like that, and you have customers, that the terms of that ordinance is sort of like an agreement or a contract between your customers and you, and that you are agreeing in that ordinance to provide these things under these terms and conditions, and you'll deliver water to the customers, and that's why when the manager talks about the water system, she talks about it as being an enterprise.
Right.
Because it's sort of being tried to be run as a business enterprise. And so it's in the old way that they used to talk about it, they used to say that that was sort of proprietary as opposed to governmental.
Okay. Well, then that leads me to my next question on that is, because one of the things that I don't want to do is run afoul of the whole, make this a Second Amendment issue and run afoul of that. Now, the Second Amendment protects the right to bear arms, and that's guns and ammunition. With shooting ranges and galleries, are they protected and covered under the Second Amendment, or is that solely directed at guns and ammunition?
Well, I'll give you an example. There recently in my mind, in the last, I don't know, 2 to 5 years is recent to me. Recently, a case in the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Seventh Circuit. The Seventh Circuit covers Illinois, Wisconsin, and Indiana. And it came out of the city of Chicago. City of Chicago decided that they had had enough with gun violence, and they don't want any guns. They want to minimize guns in the city of Chicago. And so when people wanted to open up gun ranges, they decided that they didn't want gun ranges in the city of Chicago. And so one of the ways that they, or if they did want them, they wanted to limit them pretty severely. And so one of the ways that they decided that they would deal with this issue, they passed an ordinance. An ordinance that sort of was like the strip club, gentlemen's club ordinances, whereby you have an ordinance that limits those type of activities to industrially zoned areas. And that's a typical thing that's been done. And so the city of Chicago, I think, probably kind of looked at that, looked at other things like that, and that emanates out of another case of the Supreme Court called Redding, I believe. And they decided that they would pass an ordinance, and that ordinance would basically say that, yes, you can have these in Chicago, gun ranges, but here's a map, and you can only put them in these different areas of town. And that was challenged. And that went to the Seventh Circuit, and the Seventh Circuit said, you know, people have a right to protect themselves in their homes, that we know, and they can do that with a gun. If that's true, then people have a right to learn how to use the gun, and having such a restrictive ordinance that only allows them in these very narrow, limited areas is so discouraging to the gun range people and to people who want to learn how to, mostly people who want to learn how to use those guns, that it violates the Second Amendment to the United States Constitution to make it almost impossible to learn by so limiting the location of these gun ranges. So I would say to you, yes, there are implications from the Second Amendment in how you approach a gun range.
Okay, so then, to carry on that conversation, if you are not limiting the location, the number of places where these gun ranges are able to operate, if that's not the limitation that's being placed, in fact, you're not placing any limitation on that.
Well,
but
they didn't say you couldn't. In other words, if the City of Chicago ordinance would have said a gun range is like other businesses, and they can go into the business districts, that would have been okay.
Mhm.
So, I mean, it's that they limited them to such a degree.
Right,
So it doesn't say that they can't be regulated like everything else can be regulated.
exactly.
So long as your regulation doesn't impinge on people's rights to, that's kind of where they're.
And so what I'm suggesting, and I see your licensing, that you're putting forth for licensing. I guess the only issue that I have with licensing, and then you're placing the onus on the gun range operator and the gun range owner, which again, could run afoul of any Second Amendment rights, because they could say, well, if you license us at the gun range, you're thereby existentially licensing and running afoul of the Second Amendment. And I would like to avoid that at any cost, if it's the will of the board to even move forward, because we got to vote on it. But, I would like to avoid that, because as I understand it, if we do the license, then let's say, like with the gaming terminals, we could say, okay, to get the license, there's a $1,500 fee to get the license. And then they could turn around and they could either absorb that or they could pass it along to the users of the range, whatever the will of the operator is. What I'm saying is that for the purpose of generating revenue to fund a victims of violence fund or any other type of fund that we would want to establish because of that, if we simply place a fee for usage of the range of $1, I mean, without having any deliberation of $1, every time you went to the gun range, you had to pay an additional $1 to the village for the privilege of using the gun range and doing that. Could we enact something like that apart from going through the licensing process? Could we simply enact a fee for the usage of the gun range for whatever that fee is that the board would determine is fair and reasonable to do that?
So, you first asked me, is there a difference between a fee and a tax?
Yes, that's where we started.
That's where we started. And I guess, it's like, what is a rose, right?
Yeah.
If you fashion a fee and call it a fee, but it's really a tax. I mean, if it's on.
You say
the person-
tomato, I say
If it's on the
tomato.
person who's using the gun range, you're not really licensing that person. You're basically exacting from that person an amount of money for going and using that range. There's no question that you could do that for gambling. In other words, in the boats, the legislature.
That's not a second, that's not a.
It's not correct, it's not protected.
Right.
It's not protected. So I would say that if it should be looked upon as a tax, the majority opinion in this Illinois Supreme Court would say if the money were to go for these very narrow purposes, that might satisfy the state of Illinois uniformity clause. Because that's really what they really zapped Cook County on the Illinois uniformity clause. The only look to the Second Amendment because that required this heightened looking at it, even under the Illinois uniformity clause. But they didn't decide it based on a violation directly of the Second Amendment. This concurring opinion says that that the majority, or the rest of them, we're kind of leading the people down a slippery slope. Do I really know whether they are or are not? No, I don't. You know, but it's clearly an issue that would probably ultimately end up somewhere to be decided. And so that's why, in my view, because it seems like the Second Amendment does have the right to retain, you know, you do retain the right to apply your police power, and the police power, according to the Supreme Court of Illinois, is somehow distinct from taxation. And so they're saying that if you can do it under the police power, if you can, then you might be okay. And the police power, in my view, is more towards regulation, the safety of what's inside of a gun range, who's responsible for things inside of the gun range, maybe the hours of the gun, I just don't know.
Yeah.
But
Is it illegal to fire a gun in the village of Hanover Park right now? Or do we have ordinances that?
it is.
Yeah.
I mean, a
You
person
can't
can
go out
stand.
there and shoot your gun into the ground.
On New Year's Eve, a person can go out and just fire off their gun.
No,
and then
that's
say, "Oh."
illegal.
So, no.
So it's
But ask
not,
the police chief.
Reckless discharge.
So is it lawful in the village of Hanover Park to shoot off a gun?
No, you can't just go outside your yard and pop around in the air.
okay, so it's not legal to shoot guns without the proper.
Right.
Without the,
Well,
The-
I think the theory is that you live in a town that has a population of 40,000 people, and if people were allowed to just shoot off their guns, there's a big safety issue.
so there's some regulation on
There
the
is some
operation and the
regulation.
discharge of guns, which doesn't run afoul of the Second Amendment.
Which is what I said.
Yeah.
that
That's
the-
'cause it's an
that the-
unlawful discharge
That
of
the
a
Second
weapon.
Amendment does say that it is subject to the police power, and the police power is the ability to regulate for health, safety, so on.
Now, to answer your question on people being able to go out and shoot on their property, it depends, and I don't know what Cook County or DuPage County is. I know in Winnebago County, if you have 3 acres or more, you're allowed to shoot on your property as long as you have proper, like if you have a berm, et cetera. So, and you're allowed to hunt on your property.
But
if
that's
you have
not in
3 acres
Hanover
or more.
Park.
No, but I'm just saying, I'm just giving you an
I'm
example.
speaking to Hanover Park. Yeah,
But most people don't have that luxury of having 3 acres or more.
okay.
Well, in Hanover Park, if you had 3 acres, the ordinance would still apply to you.
Yeah. So, yeah, I understand what you're saying, and before we move forward with passing the licensing, and taking that, I would just like to, maybe put this on another meeting agenda so that, first of all, I'd have more time to,
Yeah.
and other board members have
Right.
more time to
Yeah.
review it, to look at it.
Oh, and second.
But I just want to interject one more thing before we do this, because we had a celebrity that gave us a perfect example of gun safety and the importance of gun ranges, and that's Alec Baldwin, because he violated every safety protocol in handling a weapon.
I've worked on a number of sets, theatrical sets, TV sets, even movie sets. I've actually handled a gun on a set for a theatrical production. There was an armorer on set, a person who handled the gun. When you finished your action on stage, you immediately turned that gun back over to the armorer. The fact that there were any live ammunition would have been horrifying to anyone, that there was live ammo. So there were so many things that went wrong with that whole situation that it's inconceivable.
But the
that-
things,
that-
things you learn going to a gun range is this, okay?
Gun range wouldn't have, Jim, with all due respect.
Actually,
gun range
it
wouldn't
does, it does hurt,
wouldn't
because
have
when you're
helped that.
checking in your gun, when you
Alex
get.
Baldwin has done thousands of films where he's
you have
handled
to- you have
guns.
to- No,
Okay, all right.
it hurt, you had your, let me
Okay,
speak, all
all
right? When you go to a range, you have to check your gun in, okay? You cannot hand the armorer an armed weapon, but when he opens your case, he's still gonna pull the slide back to make sure that there's no round in the chamber, even though there's no magazine in the gun. Okay, that's standard protocol. When you go to the gun range and you're firing at the gun range, you discharge your gun, and you leave your, when you're done firing, and you put your gun down, you have that slide pulled back, so that everybody can see that there's no round chambered in that gun.
Nobody checks that, Jim. I've been to the gun range and shoot at
Well,
the range.
that's standard protocol, and Herb, there are people that go, that do it. That there are people, you know, the people that don't do it properly, they need to go, they need to be schooled.
Okay, well then, yeah,
But getting back to this issue.
I need a break. Can we take 5?
Oh.
Let's give us 5. I don't want to miss this conversation.
I do.
Hey?
Yeah. If you look at my bottom.